I saw it fall from the sky, like a purple flare. Not a meteorite, not lightning. Something else. My cabin shook with the impact. The dishes rattled on the shelves, and my dog, Rust, started howling like never before. I ignored it. Living in this forest for 3 years had taught me to ignore many things. "Stay," I ordered, grabbing my rifle. Not to shoot, just out of habit. The night was cold. April in Montana means there's still snow in the shadows. My breath formed small clouds as I followed the trail of fallen trees. Something big had punched through the forest. The crater was releasing a violet vapor, and in the center was a black object, smooth as obsidian, about the size of a compact car. No windows, no visible doors, nothing to suggest it was a ship. I stood there, watching from the edge. Rust growled beside me. "What the hell is this?" I murmured. As if responding to my voice, the object let out a hum. A section slid aside, no hinges, it just vanished. The vapor escaped in a dense cloud. And then I saw her. Her skin had a bluish tone like she was frozen. But it wasn't that. It was her natural color. Her black flowing hair framed a face too symmetrical to be human. And her eyes, bright purple, like neon lights. She wore a tight black suit with violet lines that seemed to pulse with some kind of energy. She didn't scream. She didn't speak. She just looked at me and collapsed at the edge of the crater. I hesitated. The smart thing to do would have been to run. Call someone. But I lived 50 kilometers from the nearest town, and there was no phone signal out here. And she was bleeding. A silver liquid was flowing from a wound on her side. I carried her back to my cabin. She weighed less than I expected, as if her bones were hollow. "What are you?" I asked when she finally opened her eyes, 3 hours later. She was lying on my bed. I had removed the suit to examine the wound, which was already starting to heal on its own. Underneath, she wore something like underwear, but made of the same strange material. "I am Avra," she said, her voice perfectly clear. No accent. "I come from a system you call HD 85512. That doesn't answer my question." Her purple eyes studied me. "I am a geneticist specialized in cross-species hybridization and a political fugitive." I didn't laugh. I didn't react. 3 years on this mountain had eroded my emotions down to raw instincts. "Why here? Why my forest?" "I didn't choose your forest," she said. "My escape pod was programmed to seek out areas with low population density. I had to avoid large human concentrations. Your governments already know about us." "And now what?" Avra looked at me, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "I need your help, human, to create a new life." She explained her situation while eating. She devoured the raw meat like it was a delicacy. She didn't seem to have any problem with our basic biology. "My species is dying," she said between bites. "Genetic incompatibility accumulated over millennia of DNA manipulation. We became sterile." "And you came to Earth to?" I asked. "To find compatibility. Humans are surprisingly versatile at the genetic level, and isolated ones like you are easier to approach." That made me laugh. The first time in months. "You're telling me you need a sperm donor?" She didn't smile. She didn't even blink. "I need more than that. I need a father." I set my plate down. "Look, I don't know what you learned about humans, but that's not going to happen." "You don't understand," she said, moving closer. I could smell something strange in the air, like ozone after a thunderstorm. "I can't conceive the way you imagine. I need to create a hybrid embryo in a lab, and I need your continued participation throughout the process. Your DNA will keep modifying during gestation." I looked out the window. I should have been calling the Army, NASA, whoever handled this kind of thing. But something inside me resisted. Maybe the years of isolation had clouded my judgment. Or maybe it was something else. "Why me?" there are 8 billion humans. Because you're alone. Because something in you chose to help me instead of running. And because your genetic structure carries traits I need. How would you even know that? She pointed to her eyes. I can see more than you imagine. On the third day, while hunting, I saw the lights. 3 black helicopters flying over the crash site. I ran back to the cabin. Avra was on the porch, watching the sky with a grim expression. Who are they? I asked, out of breath. The same ones who have been capturing my kind since we arrived, she said. Your government has underground facilities where they experiment on us. How did they find you? My ship emits a specific radiation. They track it the same way you track radio signals. She turned her eyes to me. We have to leave. Now. I packed the essentials in under 10 minutes. Clothes, ammunition, dehydrated food. Rust followed us as we pushed deeper into the forest. I won't survive without my equipment, Avra said as we climbed a steep slope. I need to recover technology from my ship. That's a hot zone right now, I said. It'll be crawling with soldiers. She stopped. She looked at me with an intensity that cut through me. Without it, I can't create the hybrid. And without the hybrid, my species will die. Why do you even care? You said you were a fugitive. Avra was silent for a moment. Being a political dissident doesn't mean betraying my people, she said quietly. I'm fighting a regime, not my world. Something in her voice reminded me why I'd run to these mountains 3 years ago. Rejecting a system, not humanity. What exactly do you need? I asked. We caught one of the soldiers when he wandered off to relieve himself. I knocked him out with the butt of my rifle, while Avra used a technique I'd never seen before. Her hands barely touched him, and he dropped like a sack. Wearing his uniform, I infiltrated the perimeter. They had built a temporary structure around the ship. White tents, generators, powerful lights. Like a scene from E.T., but way more militarized. The target was a cylindrical container, about the size of a thermos, hidden in a secret compartment of the ship. Avra's description was spot on. I found it exactly where she said it would be. I was almost out when an alarm went off. Intruder in Sector 3! Repeat! Intruder in Sector 3! I ran for the forest as bullets whistled around me. One grazed my shoulder, burning like red-hot iron. But I didn't stop. Avra was waiting for me at our rendezvous point. Her eyes lit up when she saw the cylinder. You got it! Yeah, I said, gasping. Now tell me the truth. The whole truth. In a cave, by the light of a small fire, Avra opened the cylinder. Inside were instruments that looked medical, but were far too advanced for me to recognize. My government discovered we could hybridize with humans, she said, her hands moving over the instruments with surgical precision. But they wanted to use that technology to create soldiers, enhanced slaves. Her hands never trembled. Every move was exact. I believed it should be used to save both species. And that's why they're after you, I asked. For that, and for stealing the only functional prototype. She pulled out something that looked like a crystal syringe. I need a sample of your blood. I extended my arm without asking. The prick was painless. A hybrid could have the best of both worlds, she said, as my blood, so red compared to her silver fluid, filled the vial. Your genetic adaptability, our longevity, and cognitive abilities. And what happens when this hybrid is born? Do you take it with you? Avra shook her head. It wouldn't survive on my world. The atmosphere is different. Besides, I have no way of going back. Then what? I pressed. Her eyes locked onto mine. You'll have to raise her. Teach her how to survive on this planet, and how to hide. The weight of her words crushed me. And you? I asked in a whisper. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The silver patches spreading across her blue skin said everything. She was dying. Over the next 2 weeks, while we kept moving to avoid the military, Avra worked on her portable lab. The hybrid embryo grew inside the cylinder, which turned out to be a highly advanced incubator. I hunted, kept watch, and occasionally submitted to more extractions. Not just blood, bone marrow, epithelial tissue, even sperm, although the process looked nothing like human reproduction. "Your DNA is surprisingly compatible," she said one night, examining samples with a device that projected holographic images, as if it were designed for this. "Guess I'm lucky," I said. She gave me a strange look. "Humans always blame luck for what they can't explain." "What are you implying?" "Nothing," she said, turning back to her work. "The embryo is developing traits from both species. It might grow faster than expected." I didn't ask more. Each passing day, Avra looked weaker. The silver patches kept spreading. Her movements were slower. One night, while she slept, I went through her notes. I couldn't understand the symbols, but the graphs were clear. The embryo was growing at an alarming rate. And Avra. There was no doubt anymore. She was dying. The helicopters found us on a rainy dawn. I don't know how, but suddenly they were overhead, descending between the trees with military precision. "Run!" Avra shouted, grabbing the incubator. "Take the girl!" "Girl? She's female. Your daughter now." Gunfire, shouts, commands over megaphones. Everything became chaos. We ran toward a ravine. Rust barked furiously, distracting the soldiers just long enough for us to slip between the rocks. "I can't go any further," Avra said, stopping. The silver patches now covered half her face. "Take her." She handed me the incubator. Inside, floating in amber liquid, was something the size of a 6-month-old human fetus. But it wasn't fully human. Her skin had a bluish tint, and tiny violet markings pulsed under her surface, like living circuits. "How am I supposed to take care of her? I don't know anything about this." Avra pulled out a small crystal device. "Everything you need is in here. Instructions, her story, our story." I took it, confused. "Why me?" "Of all the humans..." Avra's gaze softened. For the first time, I saw something like real emotion in those purple eyes. "It wasn't random, Adam. Your DNA isn't compatible by accident." "What do you mean?" Gunfire nearby. No time. "You're not entirely human. You were modified before birth. An experiment from those who came before me." "I don't understand." "You will," she said, touching the incubator tenderly. "She'll help you understand." Avra straightened up. The silver spreading across her skin pulsed, almost alive. "Go north. There are others like you. They'll find you." "Avra, go. Now." She pushed me toward a narrow path through the rocks. The last thing I saw was her silhouette against the rising sun, turning to face the helicopters. The girl was born 3 days later, in an abandoned cabin near the Canadian border. She didn't cry when she emerged from the incubator. She just opened her eyes, one blue like mine, the other purple like Avra's, and stared at me. I named her Nova, because she came from the stars. The device Avra left me was like a diary, a record of her people and their mission. But it also held something more, the truth about me. Turns out my isolation wasn't random, my rejection of society, my connection to this forest. It all had a reason. I was created by the first expedition, 30 years ago. An early hybrid. Too human to detect, but with enough alien DNA to be compatible with their technology. A dormant seed, planted and forgotten until it was needed. Now I understand why I always felt like an outsider among my own kind. Why I could see patterns others couldn't. Why my blood was the perfect bridge for Nova. And I understand my purpose. To protect this girl. The first of a new species. A species that could save 2 worlds. As Nova sleeps in my arms, her tiny hands gripping my finger, I look up at the starry sky through the broken window. Up there lies Avra's home. A dying world that placed its hopes in a rebel scientist. And down here, in this forest, There's us. A human who isn't entirely human, and a child who is so much more. The military is still searching. I can feel them getting closer, but they won't find us. Nova is already showing abilities. She can hide her presence. She can make us invisible. And up north, according to Avra, others are waiting. A community of early hybrids like me, preparing the way for those who will come next. Nova opens her mismatched eyes and looks at me. A smile, impossibly wise, crosses her infant face. Her tiny fingers touch my cheek. And for a moment, I see the future through her eyes. It won't be easy, but I'm no longer alone. And maybe, just maybe, this is exactly what I was created for.